I appreciate you. Since day one, I've always wanted the best for you. And I honestly want you and Josh to walk out of here together holding hands and like be a couple. So yeah, I don't want you to basically like not like me now because of this. So will you forgive me?
At times, Love Island brings these games, and you say this is dirty, this is this. But I loved this game. I really loved this game because it was messy. It started off tame, and then once it was off, people were attacking each other left, right, and center. And then Joey, for someone who doesn't apologize, and for someone who's always dragging Grace, the fact that he begged Mimi to forgive him, the fact that he was going to war with Josh and still saying, I want you, Mimi, to walk out hand in hand with Josh. And it's like, which is it? Are you trying to get Mimi in trouble, or are you trying to get her and Josh to live as a couple that's happy and in love? Make it make sense. Oh my God, I really love this episode. Hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island, Season 11, Episode 40. So Lola picks Ruben. Am I surprised? Yeah, I am. I think the producers just wanted Joey for the drama. They just wanted him for the drama, but he was never going to recouple with Lola. I think she's too young for him. I think he might have said no. Because I feel like on this show this season, there's conversations being had with the producers and the cast, and then there's conversations being had with Joey and the producers about the cast, because he seems to be getting his way all the time. Anyway, so everybody moves away from the fire pit. You have Grace have a conversation with Harry, sort of saying, I thought you were going to pick somebody else. I wasn't sure whether you're going to pick me. It's very difficult to be removed from your couple. She gave him more or less the Connor treatment, in the sense that all the time she says she doesn't like Ruben. Suddenly she's been stolen from Ruben and she wants to go back to Ruben. That's the impression that I get. I think she's realized that there's more to Ruben than she actually thought. So she doesn't want to stay with this man because she's worried that he might get her sent home. So she was open to talking to him, but she gave him the Connor treatment. If you watch the Connor recoupling with her, then you know what it is, that she gives you the impression that you're sort of breaking her up from her person, and she really doesn't appreciate that. You have Ruben have a conversation with Lola, and he says, he didn't think she was going to pick him. He thought she was going to pick Joey since she had a conversation with Joey. But then they realize that their ages align. They live in more or less the same place. They have a lot of things in common. So this could be why she chose him. And it's like, wow, good for him and her. You then have Kieran is sitting down with Nicole having a conversation, and Josh comes over. One thing about Josh is he's going to stand on business. He's going to own his crap, because he initially told Kieran while they were changing that when I have a conversation with Nicole, if things go south, I'll just point to you, I'll just give you a signal and then you come. So I think over time he's managed to build this relationship with Kieran and Nicole, because they are some of the first people he spoke to when he coupled up with Mimi, and he was worried that maybe he had made a bad decision. And I think over time their friendship or their connection as couples has grown. So he was having a conversation and sort of just saying, can I speak to Nicole? He explained himself as to why he felt like, she was arrogant. It makes sense. It does make sense. His comment makes sense to me. It might not make sense to other people, but it makes sense to me, in the sense that Nicole, when anyone comes and they start picking Kieran to, like when Lola, was it, or Lily, the air hostess, when she chose Kieran for a date, the way Nicole was talking about, how dare she pick him? She's already closed off. He's already told somebody else he loves her. Why would you want to put yourself in that position? That can be seen as arrogant. Just because somebody has said they love you and they're closed off doesn't mean it's for life. You could break up with them tomorrow, or that person could turn their head. So it can be seen as arrogant. So I do get where he was coming from, and I actually understand very well that he was right, and I appreciate him for apologizing. The fact that she tried to cry and he didn't seem fazed by it is like, I think he's grown up with a couple of sisters, so he's used to tantrums from girls, so he's not really that fazed by tears from anyone. So the islanders get ready for bed, and in the morning Well, there's no debrief, hooray! But you have sort of small little conversations or chats take place. First off, in the girls, in the bathroom, as you have Grace and Jess brushing their teeth, you hear, Grace sort of sussing out what happened last night in bed. Was Ruben making out with Lola? And it's like, you're not closed off. You were in bed with somebody else. I thought initially you said you didn't like him because you didn't want to be second best. So what's changed now? Make it make sense. What's changed now? We don't understand it. And so you have, Ruben having a conversation with his partner, obviously in his couple. He's having a conversation with Lola. He's just saying, I'm sorry, I hope yesterday I didn't seem, he was more or less trying to say to her, I hope I didn't seem standoffish, just because I was a bit taken aback because I didn't expect you to pick me. I thought you were going to pick Joey, and I was pleasantly surprised when you picked me. And so for her to be very receptive and say to him, that's who I felt I wanted to couple up with because of everything that we align on. And so it's good that he's happy. It's good that he's apologetic. Grace is now feeling some type of way because she's realized that she's got feelings for Ruben, and it's like, well, you're very dismissive of him at the start. So what's changed now? What's changed? Is it because you couldn't get your first round draft pick? Now you're going for your second round. Make it make sense. After that conversation, you have Lola go and have a conversation with Joey, because Joey in the bedroom, you are telling the guys that he needs to speak to both Lola and he needs to speak to Jess and just iron things out and button things up and make sure everybody knows what's happening. And it's like, Joey, you wanted attention. We all know you wanted her to pick you, and sadly she didn't pick you. And so you're going to pretend like nothing happened there. You're going to put on your big boy boots and just continue to keep it moving until, the next stop. So they have this conversation. And I like the fact that, Lola stood up, given her age, she actually stood tall and said to him, you didn't tell me you were not open to getting to know me. The way you made it seem was like, the two of you were still open and you're open to exploring connections. Had you told me that, then I would have known better. I think, given a choice, Lola was going to pick Joey. But then seeing Joey's reaction and how he kept reassuring Jesse with a Y and how nervous Jesse with a Y was, I think was the driving force behind Lola's decision to pick Ruben. I don't think Ruben was her first choice, but I think she used him as a backup plan because she felt that she couldn't have Joey. If she did decide to go for Joey, all hell was going to break loose in the villa and she wasn't going to be treated fairly, irregardless of the fact that this is the same thing that Jesse with a Y did. They receive a text message to say that they'll be playing a game called Couples Goals, and everyone is nervous because, it's time for them to reveal what they really think about one another. And from the night before, there was that fallout after the game with the ice, and this is just a carry on. And it's like, all season you haven't played games, and suddenly now it's back to back to back to back. Make it make sense. It's as though the producers thought, well, it's too quiet, what shall we do to stir the pot? And they sure did create a mess. It was interesting because their first question was actually very good. It was, which couple would you double date with? And it seemed, the consensus was Sean and Matilda. And I think it's because Sean and Matilda are friends with a lot of people, like they're friends with Mimi, and I don't think so much with Josh. I think it's more with Mimi. Even when it came to Kieran and Nicole, it's more Nicole than anybody else. And so I don't know. It was a good question to sort of get them to step into the water. And then the next question was, which couple is most argumentative? And you knew it was about to go down. And I give credit to Ayo and Jess. Because they said their truth. Because even when the question started, you could hear Ruben say, oh, it's about to be messy. And Nicole and Kieran actually knew that they were the most argumentative, because Nicole kept saying, oh, it's just a game in the garden. And it's like, you don't need to throw a fit. So when people started saying Nicole and Kieran, they were okay with it. So you had Mimi and Josh say, Joey and Jesse, because of recent events. This is why. I think they didn't want to say Kieran and Nicole just because Josh has managed to just get them out of trouble with Nicole. And so I think he didn't want to go back down that road. And then for Sean and Matilda to say, oh, well, it's Ayo and Jesse because of the whole Mimi thing. And it's like, why? Why do you have to bring in Mimi's name when you're talking about them? And they weren't arguing. And I give credit to Jesse because Jess said, You are the reason why we were arguing. You are the instigator of all the fights. So you can't say we are argumentative because you are the ones that instigated all the fights that we had. And for just to say, oh, he wears Joey's like a hat, and Matilda is afraid of upsetting other people that she's friends with. Yeah, that's the truth. She could have easily called out her friend, Nicole, but she doesn't want to upset Nicole, so she's decided to take the easy route and go and name someone that she knows is not in an argumentative couple. You have to give Ayo and Jess and Josh and Mimi credit. They haven't been argumentative couples. Some of the others have been messy, but they have minded their own business. It's actually people that have come looking for them and creating problems for them. So next up is which couple gives you the biggest egg. And Sean and Matilda are called out. Because of Sean, not because of Matilda. Because of Sean. And Sean, the audacity. Sean is that kid in school who sat at the back of the class, who peed himself at times, who nobody wanted to talk to, and who looked just very awkward. And now he's grown a little beard. He's grown a couple of little muscles. He thinks he's the bee's knees because of the fact that he thought he could outsmart Ayo and Jess. But the problem is, when Ayo and Mimi were a couple, they were both people that were non-confrontational. And then they recoupled with their spokespeople. Jess is a firecracker. She just goes off. Ayo has to reel her in. Whereas with Josh is more calculated. Josh doesn't talk just because he wants his voice to be heard. When he says something, he's saying what he means. And if he wants to cut you, he cuts you deep and before you even know or you even think of a response. So Sean is, oh, well, it's because of you and Ayo and Mimi. And he starts bringing up, oh, Mimi sat me around the fire pit and was busy telling me that she had feelings for Ayo. And Mimi said, that's not how it happened. Because at the end of the day, you had just saying, why are you bringing it up? Ayo saying, why are you bringing it up? And then just had to say, don't pretend like you're speaking up on my behalf. At the end of the day, if Mimi told you in confidence, you need to keep it there. Why are you bringing it up in a challenge? What are you trying to do? And I was here for it because it was a tag team. They whacked him left, right, and center. He didn't know what hit him. And I give credit to Joey for not stepping in and leaving him alone. At the end of the day, Matilda had to step up because she realized that they were going to swallow him alive, to swallow him whole. And Sean is just standing there like an idiot. Oh my God, I don't get it. And then it was which couple is most smug. And so Mimi and Josh said, Joey and Jesse with a Y. Am I surprised? No. The majority went for Nicole and Kieran. And Nicole is already pacing and she's huffing and puffing. And it's like, why did you come on a game show if you're not a sportsman? Why would you put yourself in this position whereby you're having to sort of deal with things that you're not able or you're not equipped to deal with? Because at the end of the day, people are going to give their opinions. If you are someone who doesn't like to hear people's opinions, then maybe stay your ass at home. Don't come on a game show and then be offended when people tell you the truth about yourself. I don't get it. Next question is, which couple are least honest with their feelings? And it's like, I get why they're saying it's Mimi and Josh. Mimi and Josh talk. Other people don't talk. Mimi and Josh were together for less than a week and they passed the quiz, which other couples that have been together since the start couldn't pass. So the idea that because they are not talking about their feelings, we all heard them say, after the pie snog challenge, Mary, they both were butting heads because they were saying, Mimi was saying, it's not that I didn't like you being upset that I kissed Ayo. What I didn't like is you were discussing our feelings in public. I would have preferred you and I sit aside. And this is what they do every single time they sit aside and they discuss what's going on between them. Yes, there was the situation with Ayo, which Nicole had a conversation with Mimi. Even if Mimi had a conversation with everybody else in the group, at the end of the day, she has never given them intimate details about her connection with Josh. So the idea that because they don't know anything, that automatically means that this couple is not strong, I don't get it. And for Joey to want to try and throw Mimi under the bus tells me that there's already been Chinese whispers in the fella about the terrace gate. That's my opinion. Because even Ayo is shocked and is saying, what are people talking about that I don't know? Because I don't get why everybody's saying that, we are the least honest about our feelings. Who are we least honest to? I think because when they have their conversations, Mimi and Josh, they don't lash out, they don't scream, they don't shout, they sit down and they listen to one another, sort of express themselves. And if there's anything that needs to be ironed out, they iron it out. This is why people think they're not honest about their feelings. Josh knew that Mimi wanted to speak to Ayo after the Snog Pie Mary challenge. So it's nothing new. What I think he didn't know was the location of the conversation. She could have told him she wanted a private conversation. but still, he did know about the conversation, and I have a feeling he will know the details once she has the opportunity to tell him. This Eleanor's the one to kill me. I don't have the strength. Please, I'm trying to catch up with my shows. I don't have the strength for this mess. Sean, someone needs to punch him. I'm sorry, I don't advocate for violence, but maybe in a friendly boxing match, because they need to humble him. Someone needs to humble him. So it's like the next question is, which couple are the biggest game players? And the majority of the people said Joey and Jess. And it's correct, because Joey's been on reality TV. He knows how it works, and he's using this to his advantage in the sense that he's causing mayhem in the group just for ratings, because he knows he can leave there and they'll say, oh, with Joey Essex, this was the highest rated season of Love Island. It hasn't been this highly rated in whatever, because all his other reasoning doesn't make sense. And for him to be offended by the fact that Ruben called him out doesn't make sense. And he's trying to say, oh, well, Grace is lying, because he was told by Ruben that you're a game player because of the comments that you were making during the game, the tennis match thing, the gameplay sex or something like that. You made inappropriate comments about Grace, and Grace is lying to you because she's saying you're her type when I know you're not her type. And it's like, Joey, are you offended that Grace doesn't like you? Well, she liked you, but she doesn't like you as in her type. She's got a type that's totally different. And I feel like she's playing games with you all, and she's just saying you guys are her type, or you're her type, you're not her type. And Grace is like, I don't speak to you, so how do you know what my type is? How can you argue with me and tell me that, no, this person is not your type? I know what your type is. Make it make sense. And Joey is offended. He's offended at the idea that, all these guys that were saying Grace fancies them and he was fighting them actually were telling the truth. So Omar, Connor, he can't fathom the fact that actually these guys were telling the truth and Grace was really digging them. It wasn't them sort of trying to push themselves on her. And so that is grating his nerves. And for him to say, well, the way you behave with me is totally different, I think he was more or less trying to say, you've had sex with me anyway every time I've seen you, but you haven't had sex. And it's like, maybe it's not Grace who's stopping that taking place. Maybe it's actually the guys who don't want to embarrass themselves by having sex on national TV, unlike you, because they won't get the special treatment that you got from ITV, whereby everything will be scrubbed and they won't be humiliated by being displayed on TV. So maybe they are the ones that are sort of putting the brakes on that. Maybe it's not Grace refusing to have sex with them. Have you ever thought about that, Sherlock Holmes? So the next question is, which couple is most likely to get their heads turned? And well, Nicole and Kieran and Ruben and Lola both say Grace and Harry, because Grace has got a type and Harry is not that type. And then you have Joey sort of start whispering, I know something that nobody else knows. I know something that... And it's like, you've just answered the question, who is the biggest game player? Because for you to try and out Mimi in front of everybody, I like the fact that Mimi immediately said, in front of everyone, she didn't ask him to keep quiet. She just said, I wanted to speak to Ayo after we had the Snog Mary Pie game privately. So I asked Joey to facilitate it. And she actually looked Josh in the face and actually told him, because Josh was upset. He didn't know about it and he didn't understand what they were talking about, whether they were trying to get rid of him or what was happening. So for everyone to look at him and ask him, okay, what happened? He's saying it's a secret mission. And it's like, so if it's a secret mission, why are you saying it out loud for people to hear? Why are you saying it out loud? Why are you trying to create havoc? Why are you trying to break up a couple? Because he was actually called out to say, why are you trying to break up people? And then you have, when Jess realized they were in trouble, she turns around. Well, actually, it was nothing to do with Mimi. It was more Josh, because Josh really wanted Grace. And Josh is like, I never wanted Grace. And well, it's not that you didn't want Grace, it's that Grace didn't want you. And it's like, why would you do that? Even Sean is, oh, well, you said, Grace was your type. And it's like, why do you people want Grace to keep taking strays from Josh? Because every time he does that, every time they say something that provokes him, Grace gets whiplash because he doesn't censor himself. When it comes to Mimi, Josh is as patient as can be. He's caring, he's empathetic. But anybody else, he comes with the smoke. And poor Grace was just catching strays left, right, and center. And these people didn't even empathize with her because they kept trying to provoke him. So the islanders get ready for the night, and you have Mimi telling the girls that she feels some type of way about Joey labeling something a secret mission, because now it's made it a bigger deal than it actually was, because that was never her intention. And so for Joey to say that has created a terrible picture, because Josh didn't know about it. Jess didn't know about it. And so it only brings back to the surface things that they think or they thought had been ironed out. And so once everybody's ready for the night, you have Joey sit down for a conversation with Mimi. And Mimi is saying to him, I didn't like that. You didn't need to air me out like that. If you had an issue about how I handled the situation, you should have told me and I would have dropped it immediately. I wouldn't have asked you to go and look for Ayo. And if you felt some type of way, you should have told me. I think as a friend, Joey needed to tell her that, Mimi, I think you need to have a conversation with Josh so that he knows what's happening, because Josh doesn't seem to know what's happened. And I think Mimi is an amazing person, because most of the islanders that have left the villa have nothing but nice things to say about Mimi. Most of them will go to bat for Mimi. So for Joey to suddenly apologize to Mimi, he's never even apologized that sincerely to Grace. He's never even begged Grace. And yet he's busy begging Mimi that, please don't hate me. Please don't hate me. I don't want to live here with you hating me. And it's like, but you've just thrown her under the bus and you've just run the bus over her. And it's like, oh, shall I go back and retract it to everyone? And it's like, well, maybe it's a bit too late, because everybody has already heard what you said. So they are running with it. So I don't know how he can retract that, because it's a bit too late. And Mimi, on her part, she just laughed. And it seems they have a great relationship. My feeling is all the guys have a lot of respect for Mimi. And so hearing him beg her for forgiveness makes sense, because I remember there was a time when Mimi was still with Ayo, when you had guys like Ronnie, you had Kieran, saying to Ayo, Mimi's an amazing girl. Mimi's an amazing girl. You need to keep her. And so a lot of them, I think, were disappointed when Ayo sort of messed her up. And even Joey said, I don't want, things to go wrong for you and Josh. I will have a conversation with him. At the end of the day, I want the two of you to walk out holding hands. And it's like, oh my God. I wish we actually knew who Mimi is as they see her. And I hope we get to hear in interviews how amazing she is, not only from the islanders, but from her herself and her man. Anyway, you have Josh sitting in the villa. He's sitting across in the other way. He's not coming close to Mimi. One thing I've noticed about Josh is when he's upset, he avoids Mimi. He doesn't want to upset Mimi. He doesn't want to frustrate her or anything. He'll go and vent and you'll hear him, screaming and shouting around the villa. But when he comes back to Mimi, he's like a little puppy dog. He just sits there, he's quiet. And it's like, this man is in love. Somebody save him. I think it's too late. So you have Grace complaining bitterly. She's upset about Joey. And it's like, Joey's got the capacity to apologize, because if he could apologize to Mimi, why can't he apologize to Grace? Why? Because he apologized to Mimi and he begged Mimi to forgive him for anything that he might have done wrong. And yet he can't apologize to Grace, someone he's been intimate with. Make it make sense? And then you had, a conversation between Jess and Ayo. Jess is actually more understanding than I actually thought, because I get what she's saying to Ayo, that you and Mimi are non-confrontational, and because you're non-confrontational, people take the piss. So you need to keep me in the loop so that I know what's happening. If it's something that I need to defend us as a couple, then I'm going to defend us, because you keeping quiet, Mimi keeping quiet is not helping the situation. It's just fueling the situation and making it worse than it should be. So somebody needs to be able to stand up for the team. And it's like, the thing is, Mimi and Ayo are non-confrontational, and they have people that will go to war for them. So it's a good thing, I think. I think they complement each other. I think as a couple, the two of them would have worn each other down had they continued, because they still needed someone to balance them out, and the people that they are with now actually balance them out. I like the fact that Mimi sort of went... I was hearing people on social media saying, oh, Mimi embarrassed herself. She's embarrassed herself. And it's like, Mimi doesn't know that Ayo said no. Mimi doesn't know what happened. All she knows is Joey called her to say, come downstairs and have a conversation. And so for her, she told him, the only thing she left out was, I was kneeling on my knees and I was sort of crawling to avoid people seeing me. But she told him she wanted to speak to Ayo on the terrace. She wanted privacy. She didn't want people looking or hearing what they were saying. And Ayo then decided that the two of them needed to speak on the daybeds. And she said the conversation that we had on the daybeds is the conversation that we're going to have upstairs, which means that already Josh knows about the conversation on the daybeds. He knows everything that's been discussed, because Mimi has been keeping him up to date. The only thing she didn't tell him was the fact that they went to, or she wanted them to go to the terrace. And he sort of felt some type of way when he heard the word terrace, because I think a lot of people think going to the terrace necessarily means making out. If Mimi had taken that man to the hideaway, it's one thing. The terrace, yes, people kiss, but the terrace also people talk privately, away from prying eyes and away from prying ears. We've seen countless times where people have wanted to hear conversations. So I appreciate her, and I appreciate Ayo for telling their partners to say, Mimi and I are done. And Mimi even told Josh that Ayo and I are done, but we needed to iron out whatever issues that were still outstanding and move on. It was good that they gave each other closure. That way they don't go back to each other, in my opinion. I want me a man like Josh. I want me a man like Josh who will go to war for me with anyone and everyone, and then will come home and speak to me calmly and peacefully. Because when he sat down and they had a conversation with Mimi, he was very calm. He was trying to sort of make sure that she felt safe and comfortable to say whatever she wanted to say. But then he called Joey for a conversation, and he dragged Joey for Phil. Nobody would have known that Joey is a celebrity because of the way that he spoke to him. No wonder why these boys are afraid of Josh, because Josh, when he comes for the smoke, he comes with the smoke, because he's saying to him, why did you feel the need to say that in public? Why didn't you call Mimi aside or call me aside and tell me that this is my problem, we need to address this, instead of you trying to humiliate Mimi and sort of bring her out in front of everybody to say, oh, she was calling me and asking me to do her favors, and for him to say, well, I am, her friend, I have to keep her confidence. And he's like, but you didn't, because you said it in public. And he continues to argue, well, no, I didn't. Actually, I was very respectful. I respected her privacy. I did. And it's like, Joey, don't pretend to be a fool. Don't pretend to be an idiot. You know exactly what you did. You know exactly what you're doing. This is why you're carrying on and on and on about this. Because if you were respectful of Mimi as a friend, you'd never sort of label it the way you did. But as people have said that have left the villa, Joey is a reality TV star. He knows what's going to sell. He knows what's going to provoke a response. And I feel like this is exactly what he did. And I can't wait for the conclusion, because they left it on a cliffhanger where Joey sort of implying that I didn't tell you word for word. Well, Mimi's already told Josh that Ayo and her had a conversation on the daybeds because I didn't want to come up to the terrace. And so I can't wait to see the fallout. I can't wait to see, at least on this part, everything has been discussed. The only thing that's different is when they have a conversation, I think the only problem might be the comments that Mimi made to Nicole. But then it will depend on when she actually said that. And it will be up to, Josh to sort of understand what she meant and her to sort of explain herself to him. Because, you have Joey, he's trying to throw Mimi under the bus whilst also rescuing her, because saying, oh, she's an amazing girl and I really don't want to get her in trouble. And it's like, well, if you don't want to get her in trouble, why are you saying it? Why are you saying it? Just keep quiet. Just keep quiet, please. Anyway, I digress. Thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe, and click the link in my video to watch my review from episode 39. Bye guys.